like, of school sports and clubs you were a part of dreams and schemes that you were hatching, and of your decision to come to Camosun College to pursue higher education. To high school, I thought. Do I let you know that as millennials, also known as Generation Y, you think differently than Gen Xers, and definitely, very definitely differently from us boomers, that you communicate and build relationships uniquely because you were raised on email, instant messaging, and social networking, that you poke and nudge and tweet, and have a unique sense of the time productivity equation, that you will be the highest maintenance workforce the world has ever seen, but also the highest performing and the most socially and environmentally conscious, and that the more you understand the differences and similarities between us, the easier it will be for you to get what you want. Thought about that, and I thought that was way too generational. Then I thought, do I regale you with profound quotes from people like former Harvard President Derek Locke, who said, "If you think education is expensive, try ignorance." Or leaders like George Bush, who said, "Rarely is the question asked, is our children learning?" Or influential sports personalities like Yogi Berra, who said, "Whatever you do in life, just remember that 90% of it is half mental." Do I take a more philosophical approach, I thought, and consider some of life's most vexing questions with you? Questions like, if you try to fail and succeed, which have you done? If you spill soap on the floor, is it dirty? Why are hemorrhoids called hemorrhoids and not asteroids? And finally, if a light sleeper sleeps with the light on, what does a hard sleeper sleep with? Too hard to answer, I thought. Or do I simply reinforce how proud your families are of you today and let you know that now would probably be a really good time to ask them for money? That one was, well, actually that one had potential. After careful consideration, I decided I'm not going to speak about any of those things. Rather, I'm simply going to tell you a couple of stories. As the first-year head coach of your Chargers men's volleyball program, I had an opportunity to say a few words at our recent athletic awards banquet. None of our athletes were aware of the fact that I'm a big Star Wars fan. I admit it, I'm a big Star Wars fan. What I observed during my time as an assistant coach of the program was that many college athletes, all of whom are students just like you, reminded me of a young Luke Skywalker. If you've seen the movies, I'll set it up for you, that Luke is out with Yoda in his starship, and I think they get hit by a lightning bolt or something, I don't know what it was. Anyway, they crash land on his planet in a marsh, and the ship sinks to the bottom of this marsh. So Yoda sees this as a coachable moment, and he tries to teach Luke about using the power of the Force, the power of his mind and spirit to raise the ship. But Luke is unfocused and unsuccessful and says that Yoda wants the impossible, probably a lot like your props. Finally, to make the point clear, Yoda, essentially an oversized rat, scrunches up his face, points to the marsh, concentrates, lifts the ship out of the marsh, across the water, sets it down on dry land. Luke is overwhelmed and he cries out, "I can't believe it." To which Yoda replies, "And that is why you fail." We spent a whole season getting our student athletes to believe in themselves, in each other, in the systems that we were using, and guess what? We went from not making the playoffs the year before to winning the provincial championships this year and finishing third amongst all colleges in the country, essentially the same group of guys. Earlier in my career, I was the chef de mission for the Canada Games team from BC. For those of you who don't know, that's not the head chef. I was the head of delegation for the Canada Games. And I invited Rick Hansen. I'm sure you all have heard of Rick, the man in motion Paralympic gold medalist, one of the most recognizable advocates for people with disabilities in the world. Rick was a volleyball guy before his accident, and I'd known Rick, so I invited him to come up to Kamloops and speak to our athletes as the honorary captain of Team BC. The athletes were all up in the stage in this school gymnasium. He was wheeling back and forth, and he was just smoldering with intensity. And he turned to them and he said, "Who is the enemy?" There was a lukewarm response with just a few athletes calling out. So he said it again, this time in a booming voice, "Who is the enemy?" Well, you can imagine, there were cries of Ontario, Quebec, Alberta, reflecting the hardest competition that each of the athletes was going to face during the Canada Games. Rick stopped wheeling. He waited for the room to go completely silent. Then he turned and he looked directly at this group of 200 aspiring Olympians, including a then unknown point guard named Steve Nash. And he said in a quiet voice that made everyone lean forward, "Fellow athletes, it's not Alberta, it's not Ontario, it's not Quebec, it's not another province or territory. The enemy is you. The enemy lives in you." Belief in yourself and the currency of the knowledge and ability that you've gained is one of life's greatest assets, a powerful force if you listen to Yoda or to Rick. And unlocking its potential opens a floodgate of possibilities, but it's a bit like looking in the mirror. With the exception of times before 6 a.m., which I think we all know can be pretty scary, when you look at yourself in the mirror, what do you see? Do you see the best in you? Or do you focus on the imperfections? As you leave Camosun, remember this: you create your own ceiling in life and unconsciously set your own limits to what you can and can't do based on your beliefs about yourself and your capabilities. The more limiting your beliefs, the lower your ceiling will be. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Rid yourself of limiting beliefs, what we used to call when I was a member of the national team, stinking thinking. Rid yourself of that, you'll raise your ceiling, and you can achieve whatever you want. It took me many, many years to realize that the formula for success is really that simple, and yet that profound. There's a poem by Charles Parkinson, part of which I'd like to share with you in closing. It was written about pursuing writing as an occupation, but I really think it applies equally to the pursuit of any profession. And it goes like this: if it doesn't come bursting out of you in spite of everything, don't do it. Unless it comes unmasked out of your heart and your mind and your mouth and your gut, don't do it. If you're doing it for money or fame, don't do it. If you're doing it because you want women in your bed, don't do it. If it's hard work just thinking about doing it, don't do it. If you have to wait for it to roar out of you, then wait patiently. And if it never does roar out of you, do something else. Don't be dull and boring and pretentious. Don't be consumed with self-love. Don't do it unless it comes out of your soul like a rocket. Unless being still would drive you to madness or suicide or murder, unless the sun inside you is burning your gut, don't do it. There is no other way. There never was. Athletic therapist or accountant, travel counselor or hotel manager, teacher, writer, translator, or in pursuit of even higher levels of education. My advice to you today is simple. Look in the mirror each day. See who you want to be, and pursue it with passion. I wish you all great courage to follow your path with conviction, good health wherever your adventures may take you, and great success along the way, and may your reflection always, always bring a smile to your face, unless, of course, it's before 6 a.m. Thank you.